Carter Ballard, welcome to Hobby of a Lifestyle. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much.
Well, that's quite a humble entrance. Let's get into it straight away. You are a USA national champion, a three-time world champion, and recently have just come back from Paris.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've been at it a long time. So I think I've been going now for 14 years.
Wow, 14 years. Let's tell listeners and viewers exactly what is your hobby, what's your passion, what sport are we talking about?
Yeah, so I am a professional jump roper, and I know you don't hear that very often, but that's what I've been filling my life with for the last 14 years.
Wow. 14 years, long time to be taking part in a hobby or an activity. Like all podcasts, let's go back to the very beginning. As a child, where did you grow up and what were you into as a child?
Yeah, I grew up in Rexburg, Idaho, here in the United States, and growing up, honestly, I always did have a passion for like stunts and flipping. When I was really, really little, we did like a gymnastics group as a family. And that's where I learned how to do like a cartwheel and a somersault. And
Okay.
I think that really helped me get the basics down. But I didn't get exposed to jump rope until I was 8.
Okay.
And my older brother was attending these jump rope clinics that are held at the local middle school. And I was like, oh, that sounds so cool. Do you mind buying me a jump rope? He said, yeah. So I handed him $5 and he came home with a jump rope. And I just practiced on my driveway for almost 2 full years. And I
Really?
was just going and going and going. There's this piece of paper that was hung in my dad's house for probably 10, 11 years. And it said, jumps in a row, 184, Porter, important, please don't throw away. And then I wrote how old I was. I was like, I'm 8 years old. And
Wow.
that was on my dad's kitchen cupboard for years and years and years. And that's how it all started.
I mean, it's so interesting to see you were kind of 8 years old and younger, but what was it that intrigued you about a jump rope? It costs you $5. It's something so accessible. It shouldn't cost a lot of money. I always, and here in the UK, it probably gets referred to more as skipping over here in the UK. And I
Mhm.
always refer to that as something that martial arts athletes did or boxers do as a warm up or something to help get them fit and just into that rhythm. What was it about? It sounds ridiculous because obviously the level you're at, there's nothing simple about it, but just it is really simplistic and really nice, just something dead easy that doesn't cost a lot of money. What was it that intrigued you about at that age?
That's a good question because I think back and I don't actually know why I was telling my older brother to get me a jump rope. I had never seen someone competitively jump rope. I've never seen someone do cool flips. I've never seen any of that. But I guess that day it sounded fun. And it just was fun. That was it. I just kept going because it was fun.
At what point, and you're practicing how many skips you can do in a day, and then you're talking about this family gymnastics club that you go to as well, and you're learning some of the tumbling and some of the tricks and some of the stunts. At what point does that start to marry up with jump rope?
Yeah. So I think we stopped doing that little gymnastic class when I was 3, 4 years old.
Okay,
So I didn't know very much from that, but I do think that was a basis of my passion for flipping. I just didn't know it for years.
okay,
Um, so like I said, I did that kind of by myself for 2 years. And then I myself went to those clinics that my older brother was going to. And at this
right.
point, I was 10 years old. You cross off these tricks as you do them. The staff member will cross them off. And I made it through the paper in a few months, did all the tricks, and then I was on the team myself.
Wow. And that is one of the questions I want to ask is jump rope clinics. How common are they? Because I know that the sport now has evolved and it's obviously it's a different animal to what it was 14 years ago, but maybe it's here
Yeah.
in the UK, or maybe it's not because we're not exposed to it a lot. But how big were those clinics there and how have you seen them evolve over the past sort of 15, 14, 15 years?
Yeah. Um, they're not very common. Even
Yeah.
still to this day, they're not as common as a lot of other sports. I mean, jump rope is still a niche for sure. I think the nearest one to that school I went to in Rexburg is maybe 2.5 hours by car.
Wow.
So I was just lucky that I was in that area
Yeah, yeah.
and that there was a jump rope team in Rexburg, Idaho. It's a super remote, kind of random place.
Is there something about, because I think about jump rope, and obviously I know you see teams of people doing whatnot, but is there something about jump rope that are you an individual sport person when it comes to being a competitor? Because I know I am. I'm an individual. I struggle with team sports a little bit.
Yeah. So growing up, so I jumped with my jump rope team. Our name was Proform Airborne,
Yeah,
and there was about 20 people on the team and about 5 people that I jumped with, did the double dutch routines, did the different speed events where you see how fast you can jump,
yeah.
double dutch speed, seeing how fast you can jump for different periods of time. And up until about 2019, that's kind of we were like super close, always practicing 3, 4 hours a day,
No.
just going really hard. And about 2019 into 2020, when COVID hit, we're going off to colleges. We're getting married. One of us ended up having a child, and so it kind of we grew apart a little bit. I mean, we're still friends. We just live in different
Yeah, yeah.
states around the nation, and then I feel like since then I've definitely more been focused on my individuality of my own style and jumping.
It's so cool. So thinking about you growing up in school, what's the reaction to people when you say, well, actually, my sport is jump rope, and that's what I'm really good at. That's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah. It's interesting. There is definitely a mix of responses. There are people that have seen my videos before on Instagram. They don't know it's me, but when I mention I jump rope, they go, wait, and they kind of connect the dots and they say,
Right.
oh, wait, I think I've seen you before. And for example, the other day I'm in university right now, and my college professor had to stand up, introduce herself, say just our name, something we like to do. I stood up, I said, my name is Porter Ballard. I like to jump rope. And I sat down. And he was like, wait 1 second, Porter, why don't you just tell the whole class here how much you love jump roping? I was like, okay, either he knows I like jump roping or like who I am actually, or he's just curious. And
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
just explain 3 countries that you've been to jump roping. I was like, okay, he knows. He
He knows,
knows who
yeah.
I am. And so, it's either that or people just like, wow, I've never heard of that. So it really just depends.
Yeah, I quite believe it. At what age then? Well, you've said you've invested kind of the first 2 years of your life just practicing by yourself, keeping a record of how many jumps you can do. At what point after you've completed the syllabus that you were taking part in at the clinic, did competition then start to come into your life? How old were you? Can you remember your first competition?
Yeah, I do actually. My first year competing was 2012.
Okay.
I don't know how old I was at that time, but I was young, probably like 10, 11, 12, something like that. And we did the regional championship. I don't remember how I did, but at the national championship, I got 10th place in my individual freestyle. And I was pretty excited about that. It was my first year competing, qualified for the national
Yeah, yeah.
championship, got 10th place. And I think that's when it kind of clicked for me that I love doing this and I'm just going to keep doing it. In 2014, or sorry, 2016, when I was 14 years old, was mine and my teammates' revolutionary year. The
Right.
world championship was in Portugal,
Wow.
and we were there as 14, 15-year-olds, and we scored the highest score of the whole competition in our double dutch routine.
Wow.
Just these little kids. And at that point, it was it was crazy that we weren't just these little boys anymore. People were coming up to us and taking pictures and wondering what we do for training and wanting to be our friends and know who we are. And that was crazy. It's such a cool experience.
And when you say 14, 15-year-old little kids, were you competing against adults then, or was it age categories?
Yeah, we were competing against adults,
Wow.
about
And
everyone
you went on to
in the
win
whole
that?
world.
So you went, that was that the first World Championship?
That was my second world championship. We
I
were
mean,
there.
I mean title.
Oh yeah, yep. Uh-huh.
Wow.
That was my first, with my teammates there.
And it's interesting. We were talking earlier about, these clinics still aren't maybe as popular as what it's going to be. I think certainly some of the exposure you get from social media now, the exposure from
Mhm.
the Olympic Games and whatnot, that's probably going to ramp up a lot of interest. The World Championships and I've been to World Championships for my sport where maybe there's been a new, because of the fractures within the sport karate kickboxing realms, there's been a new World Championship that's set up, and I've been to World Championships. I've been really really busy and
Mhm.
really, some fantastic competitors. Then I've been to World Championships that have been maybe a little bit smaller, but it hasn't detracted from the quality of competition that was there. There was still some phenomenal, and it almost made those World Championships a little bit more with it because the people that were there was so quality. These World Championships, when you go, I mean, how big are they? And is it when you get there? And I don't know if nationals are like this, but sometimes when you go to nationals, because lots of people go, the standard you kind of get rid of the not so good people very quickly, and it's kind of the
Mhm.
elite that rise to the top. World
Yeah.
Championships are of a different. World Championships, is everyone that there? Is it very much it's quality from around the world?
Yeah, for sure. How we do our world championships is if you score top three in an event in your country, then you get to go to the world championship. And so this last year, I think it was 2023, was the International Jump Rope Union's World Championship held in Denver, Colorado, and there was 33 countries and about 800 competitors.
Wow.
And so it was big. It was big and the talent was big. It was the biggest up to that point, the biggest competition. And let me tell you, that was a surreal experience. And this coming year in 2025, it's going to be in Kawasaki, Japan, and
Wow.
we're expecting an even bigger, more successful competition, more exposure,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. Okay, we're definitely going to get to this. Let's go back to, because I know I went off on a tangent. Let's go back to a 14, 15-year-old world champion.
Mhm.
Okay. Against, as I say, you're not competing against under 18s, you're not competing in a category, you're now competing against adults as a 14, 15-year-old, and all of a sudden you've blew the adults out of the water.
Mhm.
How does that change? Not so much your life, because you probably just come back home and you go back to being Porter who jump ropes and you're just a world champion. You still go to school and whatnot. I've been there myself. But how does it change you and your outlook on life when all of a sudden you're now the best in the world?
Um, I don't know if I fully grasped the concept at that time. It was oh, we won competition. We were so young. We were little boys just having a good time and we did really well and we were good at doing flips, working together. We trained really hard. But I do know that it really did boost our confidence in our training and in our lives where we can be the best and we want to get there. We want to be the best we can. And throughout the next year, we trained even harder, did great at the next competition in Florida, and we kept going. We had a new vision. Like our vision was expanded. Our lenses were wiped and we could see kind of what the opportunity would be like.
Can I ask them, you're going to world championships, you're competing this, you've got this new lens, you're looking at things very differently, you want to push yourself harder, which is really nice to hear because sometimes it's easy to win something and then not be as motivated because what's after winning a world championship? I suppose do you have that drive to push on and win more? But who's funding this? Is it Team USA who are funding this? Is it something that you have to fund yourself because it's a non-funded sport?
Up to this point, it's very much been self-funded, or local communities
Yeah,
will the local businesses will help
yeah.
fund. but we're getting bigger and getting bigger fast. And for example, the Denver, Colorado World Championship that I was talking about, that was broadcasted on the Olympic channel. It was the first sport to ever be on the Olympic channel that's not an Olympic sport yet. And we got a lot of coverage and um, a lot of opportunities through that. And I think in these coming years, it's going to be a lot more sponsorship based. And it's there. It's like right on the fence where the top people have these sponsorships that they get to go.
Yeah.
Um, but and some other sports like running, even not the best of the best, they still get sponsorship. We're working to that point.
No, it's really interesting when it's something
Yeah.
I like to highlight because it's I think a lot of people see world champion, national champion, they see traveling around the US, around North America, around Europe, and think he's mentioning, we're going to Asia. Wow, you must, yeah, and you are a professional athlete. There's things that you do in the jump rope world which makes you professional, but people don't realize actually you haven't to fund these yourself, and you have to work really hard on top of
Yeah,
being an athlete to fund that. So I think
for
I really
sure.
like the highlight because I think it would be remiss not to talk about it.
Yeah, it was. I'm grateful for all those who helped me financially, help my team because we couldn't have done it ourselves. We're just young kids at that
Of course.
time.
Yeah.
Um, but the competitions were definitely self-funded, but I had a lot of opportunities to travel in those early years to different countries to do camps and workshops, like Germany. I've been to like 4 times before I ever graduated high school, Czech Republic, Bermuda,
Wow.
Colombia, all these places. And those were guest appearances. So they would actually fly me out to help them learn the new skills that they
Wow.
saw at the competitions.
Okay, so that's really interesting. How does that impact your mindset when it comes to studies? Because I wasn't a fan of school at all. And if I had these opportunities where I'm being asked and I'm being paid to go to a different country, school would have been very easy to forget about. Now I know that there's probably a bigger emphasis on education out in the US than there maybe is here in the UK, and things are changing, but that would have been a switch off for me. Okay, I don't really need school, I don't need an education because actually I can go and do this. So how did you manage that? Did it impact you? And if it did, how was man who was kind of reining you back?
So that's an interesting question. 'Cause in high school, it's a little easier to miss. Like if I want to go on this trip, I had it planned out each trimester that I miss 8 days a trimester because if I miss 9, I would lose credit, and I did that very well. So I do all these trips, and then I mean I had good grades. I graduated high school with a 4.0. So when I wasn't traveling, I was committed to school
Okay.
and education. Um, I think the pivotal point for me where am I gonna go like the super competitive route where I'm just gonna just compete, practice everything, go to the circus, do stuff like that as we're preparing for jump rope to be an Olympic sport and get bigger and bigger? Or do I serve a mission for my church? And I ended up choosing to go on a 2-year service mission for my faith. And I went to Hungary for 2 years and left jump rope behind and just taught about my faith and
Wow.
served others. So that was at that point, I was like, okay, I'm more than just Porter the jump rope kid. I'm Porter, the kid that loves his faith, is willing to help others, and actually does love learning. Like I learned Hungarian while I was there. I speak
Wow.
Hungarian. And so when I came back, it wasn't an option for me to not go to university.
Wow.
Mhm.
Phenomenal. What was it about that 2-year service that appealed to you so much? Was it very much you wanted to break that stigma that you were just part of the jump roper who traveled, and or was it very much your faith was calling you to do that?
I think it was definitely something that I had thought about since I was a kid. In my faith, it's not uncommon to do these mission trips for 2 years, but it's not a requirement by any means. And I did feel like I wanted to go and share what I believe in. And so I went, but even when I first got there, I was still just Porter the jump rope kid. That's how to introduce myself. That's how
Right.
everyone knew me when I got there. But I remember talking to my leader, the leader of the group of missionaries, and she was saying that I'm more than just Porter the jump roper, that there's more to, I have more talents and special things about me than that. And I think that's what helped me learn that I can still be Porter the jump roper, but there's still Porter behind that.
Course, it's not always a
Yeah.
hobby or a passion that defines you as the person. You just get associated
Exactly.
with it a lot. You talk about, you're obviously ultra competitive. You're still exceptional at what you do and still obviously winning world championships, still competing at such a high level. How did you maintain that focus when you're almost on a 2 year sabbatical
Yeah.
and you're doing something else that you're passionate about? Were you still able to train in Hungary? Did you find clinics out there?
Uh, Honestly, I wasn't able to train almost at all. I did a
Really?
few little jump rope things. I ran into some Hungarian jump ropers and I went and helped them out, taught them some new tricks and stuff.
Wow.
But it was rather small. I was definitely not training. I mean, sharing my skills. I would still do flips and cool stuff for them. But the strangest thing to me was is when I got home, there was the qualifiers for the world championship within 3, 4 months.
Okay.
And I knew that I wanted to do that championship. And so when I got home, I was ready to train, train, train. And I went to practice the first day to train. And I felt stronger than I had ever felt in my whole life. Just, I hadn't trained for 2 years. I came home and I felt amazing, ready to go. And that really attributed to why I did so well in the worlds here in Denver.
And do you think that 2 year break almost is maybe gonna help you have more longevity within the sport? Because I suppose when you're a young person, I was victim of this. I started kind of sport karate when I was 5, 6 years old, and by the
Mhm.
time I got to about 11, I became a little bit disillusioned with it. And I actually took a 2 year break until I was 13 and didn't really do it,
Hmm.
and went back from 13 and loved it again. But I needed that break. Otherwise, I think if I'd had trained for those 2 years, I probably would have fell out of love with the sport completely and just dismissed it as most teenagers and children do with sports when they fall out with something.
Hmm.
Do you think that that 2 year breaks had a similar impact on you where, yes, you still loved it, but because you couldn't do it, that hunger was really burning when you got back and that desire was there?
I definitely, the desire was there when I got home. There were moments where I pondered it while I was a missionary, if I wanted to keep jump roping, if I wanted to do these competitions, because it's almost like a full-time job to be training and doing all of this. And I decided that I do love it. And I put my heart and soul into it right as I got home and haven't stopped since. I've only been home about a year and a half, almost two
Right.
years. So
I I can imagine those competitors were over the moon when you went to Hungary for 2 years and then devastated when you came back to World Championship level within about 4 months.
yeah, it was definitely a blessing for me. I felt very blessed to be in the state that I was strength wise. It was crazy.
Did you see, because you had the 2 year break, did you see people who had been in the sport almost stop competing within that 2 year break because the toll it must take on the body, even at a young age?
There were some jumpers who kind of stopped during that time. I think for there's multiple reasons someone would stop. I mean, because it's not the biggest sport yet, sponsorships are smaller, it's hard to maintain a job and do it. And I think that is probably the main factor. But there are jump ropers who are 34, 35 who are still kicking along, doing well. And
Well,
I hope I'm like them.
yeah, just have to maintain it, manage the body well.
Hmm.
You came back after a 2 year missionary that you've been on, and then you've went straight back in the World Championships, and you said you've done really well. Was that another win?
I did not win, unfortunately. There was some there was a change in the judging system, and I didn't 100% understand that, and I didn't
Okay,
want to understand it because I didn't want to get rid of my style. So
okay,
I went out and I was Porter the jump roper, didn't conform to rules at all, and it's really hard to win if you do that.
wow,
But that honestly winning wasn't my main goal. I have a dream for jump rope and it's to be style based, creativity, big stunts, flips, and I had kind of geared away from that for that world competition.
Okay.
But I wanted to represent that. So I did. And the organization, the International Jump Rope Union is coming back to that style based creativity judgment system.
And surely that's got to be the way it needs to move in order to capture people's interest.
Yeah,
Because
for
that's what
sure.
I
It's
want to see.
a lot more fun to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. You know, especially when
Mhm.
you see the slow motion videos and you're doing this like a flip and a back somersault, and you're still managing to do like five rotations of the rope, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like I struggle to do two when I'm doing a normal jump rope. Never mind five doing a back somersault, and yeah, my
Yeah.
coordination wouldn't work like that. But yeah. Can't understand. I can totally empathize with you and understand why you'd want it to be that way because that's what captures viewers' imaginations.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yep, for
But
sure.
who are you training with to practice all the stunts? Because we're talking about jump rope and you're saying about the clinics. Do the clinics have like a number of different coaches in there with different skill sets?
Those clinics, so once you're on the team, you actually start teaching the clinics.
Okay.
So you're teaching the kids that are interested, and there's groups and you're helping them sign off those things. But I never, like, yes, I have a coach and she's phenomenal, but the sport has evolved so much since she was a jumper that she wasn't necessarily saying, "Oh, try this trick we did back in my day." It was, "Hey, coach, I'm gonna go do this. We said we're gonna go send it and just like do it."
Yeah.
And we did. We'd come up with new stuff together as a group.
I
And
suppose
that's
I'm talking more around the
how I learned.
fundamentals of flipping. Who's teaching you how to do these flips safely and correctly?
It was me. I
Really?
had
Just
anyone.
self-taught.
Yeah, I learned on my lawn. I learned of my first backflip on a trampoline at my neighbor's house.
Okay.
And then I did it on the trampoline. And then I walked over to the grass and did it on the grass.
We're gonna have
And
to put a
that's
disclaimer on
probably,
this one.
yeah. I mean, I don't know why, but I was maybe 9 years old.
Right.
And I I didn't have fear in me,
Yeah.
really. I just would do it. And it's honestly, it's still kind of like that sometimes, but I'm a little more reserved, making sure I don't actually hurt
Yeah.
myself. But
Ha-
it pushed me forward.
Have the clinics evolved and where you have more specialist practitioners coming in now who, and teachers coming in to say, well, we're going to work on back somersaults today and we're going to have a gymnastics coach come in to teach, or we're going to have a tumbling coach come in rather than saying, right, you can jump rope, you've got no fear. Let's just try a back somersault.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
I would say I was a big part in kind of bringing the bigger flips into the jump rope world. I mean, I learned them at the same time. I was jump roping and learning flips, and it's not like there was some jump ropers that were doing like back flips and front flips and stuff, but that was honestly that aspect of it became my favorite of experimenting with flips, big strength tricks where you're jumping high, landing on your hands, and no one was really teaching me them. I was kind of come up with a lot of them on my own.
Wow.
And then I was the one that would go around and I guess teach people those. And there's always things you learn from other people as you go, but there was a lot of those that I kind of just laying in bed at night just like came up with, and I write it down, say I'm going to try that next practice.
Unbelievable. I suppose that, we're talking about, when did you win your second world championship and your third world championship? Because we've
Yeah.
missed out on those.
So I actually won two world titles in 2019 at a world championship in Norway. So that was in an event we called two wheel. It's two people.
Right.
Um, and then there was a double Dutch event that we got first in. So that those two world titles were that year. And
Amazing.
then the next world championship I went to was 2023.
Wow.
So COVID
So
mission.
yeah,
That's just
yeah.
how it ended up being.
And 2025 is the year again.
Yeah, 2025 is the next
Excellent.
year.
How
Sure.
did Paris present itself to you then?
So we as a sport have been trying to get to the Olympics for a while, and it's one of our biggest goals. I think the reason that I was selected was because I didn't conform to the system. I have style and it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
At least that's what my mom says, is that it's fun to watch.
It
And
is.
yeah, and once the opportunity arose from the Olympics talking to the Jump Rope Federation, and they needed jumpers, and they hand selected people to kind of go represent. We had 5, 6 of us from the US, 3 from Japan, 3 from Hong Kong,
Wow.
some from France, you know.
Yeah.
It was an international group that went, and there was, I feel very special because there were many, many, many people around the world who were messaging saying, hey, like I will catch a flight right now. Like, how do I come and join? Like, I want to join these performances. I want to help represent. And that's just not how it worked. It was a selective process. I mean, I I can't like really express how grateful I was that I was part of that. But I'm glad that I kept my style.
And what was the experience like? You know, you're there with, because it was almost like a mock competition, wasn't it? It was probably a bit of a trial run for the Olympics, wasn't it? And you look at
Yeah.
that and go, you are now performing in front of probably, well, in front of millions,
Mhm.
because the publicity that it got, and also, you know, the world's best athletes are in this at the same venues. What was the experience like? How can you put it into words?
It was phenomenal. I don't know exactly what I was expecting. The schedule wasn't really written out exactly, but it was definitely a showcase of the
Yeah,
sport. We didn't hold like real competitions where we're having judges
yeah,
panels and stuff, but we did a lot of performances. So we performed at skateboarding, BMX. We performed at the Park of Champions where the Olympians received their gold medals right in front
yeah.
of the Eiffel
Wow.
Tower.
Yeah, I seen that
And
one.
you know, these are broadcasted on the Olympic channel.
Yeah,
Huge, but is very performance based jumping. So you do a trick, smile, you know, get the crowd
yeah, yeah,
hyped. A little different than a standard competition, but we did battle competition where I would go out, do some tricks, and then the guy from Hong Kong would come out, do tricks, and then the crowd would vote who wins. Or
right.
we had 4 people that were selected as judges and they would point. So
Wow.
stuff like that. It was a broad range of things that we were able to do.
Mm. And can you imagine the Olympics maybe going down that route so it becomes more of a spectator sport?
I hope so. So, you know, when you watch a gymnastics routine, it's very formalized. You know, they stand on the edge, they run, they tumble, they do some in between stuff. And I mean, people watch that and they love it. And that's kind of what jump rope competitions look like at this point.
Yeah,
So you go out, you jump for a minute 15 and you're doing all these cool tricks, hard tricks. It's fun to watch. Like, don't get me wrong. It's, you know, doing tricks, high jumps, landing on your hands, doing different things. Um, but I feel like my, this is my personal opinion. My favorite kind of jump roping to watch
yeah.
is the battle type of competition. Like it's more similar to what the breakdancing has kind of become as
That's
well.
what I had in my head. Yeah, and I suppose it
Yeah.
must be a really exciting period because, as you said, you're looking at the longevity of yourself within the sport, and you're probably not even in your prime yet when it comes to age.
Hmm.
I think the Olympics is starting to move away from the more traditional sports, and it is trying to engage a younger demographic. So I suppose
Hmm.
it's a really exciting period for your sport and for you personally at this moment in time.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I think we will definitely keep the formal side as well, where you create a routine and you perform it. And it's like your best tricks that you've perfected, ready to go for competition.
Yeah.
But spectator, what that is phenomenal to watch, and videos from those competitions go viral all the time. That's kind of how sometimes you know that people like watching it. But the battle stuff for me is just so exhilarating, and I think as we show the sport to get to that point, that's one of the big things we need to promote. Big events where we'll do more of the battles so people can kind of understand, like, wow, this is what people can do with a jump rope.
Yeah, and I suppose if you think about the 2028 Olympics in your home country, that would be nice to be showcasing there.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I obviously we don't know the schedules yet, but it's a very, very high possibility we're going to be showcasing like we did in Paris. And there's a chance that I'll be one that's coordinating at this time. You know, the French team was coordinating in France, and
Okay.
it's going to be that. And then I'm really hoping that 2032 in Brisbane, they will select jump rope as one of their new sports.
Amazing. That'll be phenomenal. Obviously, we've kind of hit on there what future plans for you look like, but it is very much, what does the future hold for you, Porter, moving forward? What are your aspirations? What are the dreams, whether it be within sport or just life in general?
I I am a business major here at Brigham Young University in Utah. Um, it's business strategy, and so I'm learning how to solve business problems, grow business, all that stuff, and I love it. Like intellectually, that is what I strive for, is that level of education and professionality. I think that that is kind of what my life looks like. I'm really trying to incorporate jump rope with business. And recently I started a company called Hungarian Jump Ropes, and it's just about to launch. So it's just pre-orders right now, small Instagram page, 100 followers. And I'm hoping that I can combine my intellectual passion with my like stunt jump rope, just exhilarate adrenaline passion into one to
Sounds amazing.
do that. And I have goals with that. Like I want it to be, I want it to be able to support my family. I want to figure something out where I can keep jump roping. And obviously I want to keep competing. That kind of is a no-brainer. I want to keep competing if I can. But incorporating it more into like the grown-up life of, oh, I like, you need to make money and support yourself. So
That's amazing. We ask everybody, what would your one piece of advice be to somebody who maybe wants to follow in your footsteps, or for just, again, life in general?
that's a great question. Thank you so much. I would say that if you have a dream or a goal to do something, for me, I have a dream or goal to do a new jump rope trick. I imagine it in my head, a new flip, new jump rope trick, and I go, okay, I don't know why I wouldn't be able to do that. It sounds hard, but I believe in myself. And that kind of positive thinking leads me to actually being able to doing it. Even though no one's done it before, I convince myself mentally that I can do it. And I think that applies to so many things in life. If you have a positive thinking attitude towards something, whether it be school or your sports or anything, it's if you tell yourself that you can do it, there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to. So that's my advice. Just like keep going forward. I didn't know that I was going to be a professional world champion, competitive jump rope at the Olympics. No clue. I just picked up a jump rope because it was fun as a kid. And I just never set it down. I just kept going. And I think when someone finds that passion, you just go. Be the best. Like there's no reason you can't be. So that's my advice to all those who are coming up.
Fantastic. Fantastic advice. Porter, thank you so much for your time today and for coming on Hobby of a Lifestyle. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. I had a great time.